Hey everyone, it's Nikki here. Today I'm talking about how to adjust when things don't go as planned. So, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a walkthrough here. This is Benji. Benji. He's my Australian Shepherd stud dog. He's a little bit crazy. We love him though. He's a great sheepdog and a great cattle dog. Honestly, he's actually one of my right-hand man. Around our place, we do keep our stock dogs tethered when they're not working. That way, we don't have to worry about them hassling the sheep. You can see he's got actually a couple of dog houses here to choose from. If we go over here, if you can look way out in the background, over there you can see some of our horses down in the bedding pack. Here we have Moose. He's one of Scott's Collie dogs. He's just a green dog, one that hasn't really had a chance to prove himself yet, but hopefully this summer we'll be able to get him out and get him working. As I've said before, our place is by no means fancy, but over the years we've been working on fixing things up and seeing what works for us, and we're improving things year by year. Over here, we use our straw bales and hay bales to help, to help insulate the lambing barns, keep the wind out of them. So I'm just going to turn the camera around so you can see into the shed and how we're moving around here. Use carpet over the big doorways that don't have doors to help cut the wind. It's a very cheap way to keep that draft out. Similar to one of my other videos, I talked about the tarp that we have over on that shed there. Doesn't look pretty, but it does work. Here we've got a couple of our babies. Again, you would have seen these little guys in one of my previous videos from last week. They're outside now. The temperature warmed up, and so they still have their little lammy jammies on, but they are outside. Over there, we have the ewe lamb pen. Right there is a self feeder. We aren't using that right now. It actually doubles as a creep feeder once the lambs are weaned. So we only really use that in the spring and early summer. There's Maggie, one of our Pyrenees. So, as I said, today's episode is kind of talking about how to adjust when things don't go the way you planned. As you can see here, we have hay spread out on the ground, and it is a real mess. That's not how we plan to be feeding this year. For anyone who is living in Western Canada, you know how bad the drought of 2021 was for us. So trying to find hay at a reasonable price has been brutal. My heart goes out to the producers that had to sell their flocks out this year because you simply couldn't handle the price of feed. For us, one of the things that we were going to do, and we did at the beginning, was we were feeding alfalfa pellets. You've seen our bunkline feeders here. I've shown them in other videos. And that is one of the best ways that we were able to make it work, where we're able to feed the alfalfa pellets and a little bit of grain to the ewes. Again, I'll just turn this around here. And we were preparing to be feeding those alfalfa pellets all winter. So we redid our bunk line. Again, we've just found cheap methods of building things. So we were able to use some lumber we had kicking around here using 2x12s. And then actually what you see in the bottom there is baler belt, old baler belt. And that made it so that it covered the cracks and gave the sheep something good to be eating off of. Over there you can see our ram pen. We've got 4 mature rams this year, and then I think there's 6 replacement ram lambs that we'll be selling as yearlings, as well as a couple that we'll be keeping for ourselves. When it comes to how we had to change our plans, we adapted to feeding the alfalfa pellets, and we were doing really good at that. We did change over to a ewe ration in this last month to really help boost those yos. We don't want to feed too much heavy grain with too much protein before lambing, because we don't want to be seeing those huge lambs. Like, our birth weights are usually sitting between 10 and 12 pounds, and our yos are able to spit those lambs out no problem with no assistance. But if you feed your yos too heavy before lambing, you're going to have a lot more problems. And I would rather have a lamb that's sitting at 9-10 pounds, or even sitting around 8 pounds, where the yo is having an easy time lambing, versus having a 14-pound lamb where I'm having to pull it. It's just easier on the yos, and you're going to get a little bit more longevity out of them, as well as the fact that a yo that has an easy lambing is going to be able to produce more milk for longer, and that's just a proven scientific fact. So what kind of happened was, here we are still feeding that ewe ration that I mentioned, but when the cold temperatures hit right around Christmas time, where we were seeing consistent -40 to -50 days before the wind chill, quite frankly, it was -60 here with the wind some days. That was absolutely brutal. So we needed to be giving these yos a bit of a boost, and these new the new punk feeders that we had built, they don't support feeding hay, and I would rather not be using a round bale feeder where the sheep are going to be putting their heads into the hay and ruining the wool. So this was our method. We put the hay out, we unroll it so the sheep are able to eat it. And in the colder weather, it's just easier. They've got that protein, they're able to fill up better, really helping to conserve their energy and make sure that they're not going to be dropping too much condition when the temperature is so darn cold. When it comes to waste, yeah, we're going to be seeing a little bit more than we want to with this, but we're also making sure that the sheep have to clean up their hay completely before we're going to be putting a new bale out, which is acceptable when we're feeding that grain as well. Now that the temperature has come up quite a bit, and by quite a bit I actually mean that it's come up about 40-50 degrees Celsius, where today I think we're sitting about 0 Celsius, so that's significant. That's a significant change. And so again, this is adapting. This is changing how we're doing things for what's being thrown at us. I think a lot of people, they try to stick with one thing, and if it doesn't work, they just seem to throw in the towel and say, I don't want to do this anymore. A lot of people, and especially with sheep can be finicky. I'm the first one to admit that. So if something doesn't work, figure out what's not working and change it, and then give it another try. Be willing to accept change. Be willing to bend. People that are very rigid in their beliefs and how they do things, I find when life gets crazy, when things don't work out the way you want them to be, that's when everything just kind of goes downhill very, very fast. So we're running around 100 head right now. Kind of another thing that's hit us this year is, as I mentioned, there was the severe drought this summer, or in 2021, and that seriously affected when how our ewes were getting bred. Right now we're sitting 3 weeks past, or just coming on 3 weeks past, when our ewes should have started lambing. And we've only had 2 ewes drop lambs. That's significant, and that's really throwing a monkey wrench in our plans. We have a lot of ewes that are very close to lambing, but they haven't yet. And so I knew when we put the rams out, end of July, 1st to August, I knew that the weather was really, really hot and I wasn't seeing a lot of breeding activity. We had marked the rams, so we hadn't seen any marked butts on the ewes, indicating that the rams had been breeding. So we left the rams out for an extra week, so they were out for a month total. We're coming on to that point where these ewes should be lambing, and they're just not. So we're going to be seeing probably a lot more in our second breeding group in February. Again, we count on these early born lambs, so having so many ewes not lambing, they're out. This is a significant thing for us, but we're going to adapt and overcome. We're going to be counting on the ewes lambing in February instead of as early, end of December, early January, the way they should have been. And then we threw a cleanup ram out with the ewes, the mature flock, I should say, to be lambing in April. We normally wouldn't have done that, but when we put the ram out with our ewe lambs for April lambs, we decided to put an extra one out with the ewes, and I did see a lot more marked butts in that group than I would have liked to have seen. However, a ewe bred is at least bred. It's not like she's going to be open. She's not going to be costing us money in feed instead of giving us lambs that will be recovering her expense. So I would rather have some lambs born at an inopportune time that I wasn't quite planning on than no lambs at all. All right, that's about everything for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And remember to comment, like, subscribe to our channel to see all of our adventures here at Chic Livestock. Have a good day.